Another year has come and gone, and wouldn't you know, it's time for the worst and most disappointing video games of the year. Looking at the big picture of release quality, 2024 was actually pretty decent. The amount of Lord of the Rings golems, Crime Boss Rocky Cities, and Silent Hill Ascensions was on the lower end, with a whole bunch of releases more so getting a meh, mediocre reaction. Goes in one ear and out the other, might actually be worse than being bad. I'm still reeling from the quality of last year that I've barely been able to keep up with the bangers like Astrobot, Metaphor, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Indiana Jones, the works. One of these days I'll boot up Fantasian, but today it's stanky time. As always, we're covering some of the worst of the year, as well as stuff that didn't hit the mark with me personally, because frankly, I could care less about Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown with its 53 on Metacritic, mostly negative on Steam, and a huge outcry, but I sure did have a lot of complicated feelings about Looney Tunes' Wacky World of Sports. Acme All-Stars, my beloved. So strap in, stop playing good things like Balatro for 30 minutes, and join me in the dumpster. We gotta dig deep in the trash.
I'm the trash man.
So yo, it's Austin, and welcome to our now long-standing tradition of the worst and most disappointing video games of the year, 2024 edition. As usual, I dug deep, found what I could, played more terrible games than good, which is a problem, but I do it all for the game. I won't keep you long, we got a ton of games to tackle, and I spent hours digging through and playing as much as I can, like literally scrolling through a list of releases and going, But before we get started, I got a word from today's sponsor, Surfshark. You know what's great? Having the actual full content of the internet without region locking. Surfshark is a VPN provider that'll help protect you from things like public Wi-Fi while also getting you what you need when you want it. For example, the plethora of region-locked and censored content all over the place. Several streaming platforms have a ton of content just tucked away. Sometimes it's entirely inaccessible. Instead of poking around on the dodgiest websites known to man, with Surfshark, you can safely view the things that you want. Sometimes video games or even pay-per-views will cost a fraction of the money in different countries for arbitrary reasons, and a couple clicks and boom, you're saving money. Surfshark doesn't keep logs, they've got 24/7 customer support, and now they support unlimited devices, so with one account, you can be logged into everything. A subscription will also get you access to services like Surfshark Alert, that'll keep track of any data breaches regarding your emails, credit cards, and personal ID. Pretty valuable in these days. So if you want to up your security and get the most out of your internet while supporting this channel, click the link down in the description, or go to surfshark.com/Austin Eruption for 4 extra months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. Gotta get it before January 1st. Thanks to Surfshark for this sponsor, but for now, we gotta get this ball rolling. Every year, it seems like the internet decides on a handful of games that it declares to be the worst of the year, and then they promptly beat them into the ground. So, according to everyone else, these are the biggest flops of the year. Starting with the first quadruple A game, mostly because that title automatically puts it here. Skull and Bones. Yeah, I got a physical copy. It was the cheapest way. But I almost think that was too much. Skull and Bones has to be one of the most nothing experiences I've ever had with a video game. It's a collection of ideas from the games as a service genre of these things that fails to do anything inventive while also giving you gameplay ideas that feel a decade old. It was probably suggested as a joke, but the quadruple A moniker was tossed around for Skull and Bones, and it sure does not look or feel like it. Skull and Bones started development back in 2013, was announced in 2017, and was something that was intriguing. Ubi said, hey, y'all like the pirate stuff with Assassin's Creed Black Flag? What if we turn that into this big multiplayer boat thing, hard on the heels of Microsoft and Rare's Sea of Thieves? It's not a bad idea, but it sure was one that fell into development hell and out of the limelight for half a decade. There were rumors it was canceled, other reports said they were changing the whole thing to fine-tune its live service aspects, a literal death knell, and eventually Kotaku said that they, quote, could not cancel the game due to large subsidies from the Singaporean government, which means, like it or not, it's a pirate's life for me, or rather, no one, because this game was dunked on universally, cost $70 at launch, and currently has a whopping 59 on Metacritic. It's been a rough set of years for Ubisoft. But when you boot this thing up and realize it has less interactivity than both Black Flag and even the Sega Genesis version of Sid Meier's Pirates, you did something wrong. A staple of most other pirate games that Skull and Bones could, say, be competing with is the ability to board other ships and, you know, do pirate stuff. Yar har, stab them in the face and steal the booty. Skull and Bone only gives you the ability to shoot their health down low, attach your hooks into them, and then you watch a cutscene fade to black as you get loot, which is just a bunch of currencies, craftables, and nonsense that'll make your eyes glaze over. All of the gameplay is here on the ocean, and it's really slow. There are so many menus here, so many things. I was looking at shops and microtransactions more than I was sailing the seeds and blasting dudes away, and that is an incredible failure on Ubisoft. The fact that I'm sitting here shooting at boats, watching a number go down slowly, with RPG numbers, mind you, eventually running out of ammo and having this slow realization that yes, Skull and Bones is going to turn into yet another Destiny-like spongy loot fest was damning. And an entire call of my friends watching got so bored, they started playing Atlas instead. And I wish I could have joined them. Thankfully I could, because when I started playing, I got a message that the servers were going down in an hour. I think Skull and Bones went in one ear and out the other, because technically, it's not a disaster, but it sure is this homogenization of video game concepts into something so uninspired, it becomes a goop so tasteless, I'd rather do anything else. Or I can spend $40 on cosmetics, boyo. Let's go. There were a lot of games that were universally dunked on this year. Like I said earlier, Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown showed us what happens when a publisher gets their hand on an IP and gets a little greedy with it. Test Drive is a racing game series that's been going on since the literal 80s. It's been tossed between 14 developers, 8 publishers, and the spectrum of quality. Unlimited Solar Crown said, let's do Forza Horizon in the city, but what they gave us was an always online gassy experience grind fest that no one plays. But if you need players, enjoy the most busted AI known to man. I'm not really an expert on this one, but those meta and open critic scores don't lie. Endless Ocean Luminous is our Nintendo game for the day, reviewed similarly, and it's more of a life sim about swimming in the ocean with other players. Maybe a bit mid with little to do, but it shares an IGN score with Balan Wonderworld, which seems crazy to me. Metal Slug Attack Reloaded is a tower defense version of Metal Slug that doesn't seem like it has much going on. I think this is a port of a free-to-play gacha type of game, but reimagined for a $10 price tag, and it sure plays like it. Silent Hill: The Short Message is in the name of the game, a short thing in the Silent Hill universe. But hey, if this is one of the lowest reviewed things of the year, we're gonna have to go deeper. The First Descendant, aka Gooner Destinies, lost some luster with its audience, and Throne and Liberty, Amazon Games' latest co-branded MMO, proves once again they favor style over substance. You probably want to hear about something like Concord or Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which is super disappointing, but I've got a ton to say about that. We'll come back to that in a few weeks because I've gone and picked up all the comics and played through all of the DLC. It deserves some time, just like Gotham Knights, okay? Concord is more sad than bad, and seeing people put Star Wars Outlaws in the same tier as like Die by the Blade, Skur Ritual, and Funko Fusion is a joke. You know, in recent years, licensed games have been pretty okay. At least on the higher end of things. It's when you take a step into the abyss that you find legions of shovelware and endless cash grabs, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's almost nostalgic, a dumpster fire, which is exactly how I felt playing Fortress Challenge Fort Boyard. Wait, haven't we seen this before? This is one of them shovelware minigame collections where the goal is to get enough keys in order to escape. Yeah, we have. Is this the same game? Like Thor End of Days and God of Thunder being the same movie. Basically, and they're charging 40 bones for it. To catch y'all up to speed, Fort Boyard is a French game show from the 90s. It's been going on and off with reboots every so often. It's a series of challenges with a team doing random stuff in the real Fort Boyard. An envelope pusher in the genre. There was even an American version that aired on Disney XD. Yeah, let's take a bunch of kids out to this old waterlogged prison, like if Alcatraz was used for Legends of the Hidden Temple. That original game was called Fort Boyard in 2019, followed up by Escape Game Fort Boyard, then we got New Edition, followed by Escape Game Fort Boyard 2022, and now Fortress Challenge Fort Boyard. Every single one of these, the same microid shovelware tossed out year after year. But only in Fortress Challenge do I have the one and only score on their leaderboards. Is this online? I have no idea. But I do know that Fort Boyard has an interesting selection of default job selections. Video game journalist, hand model, foot model. Why are these the first ones I'm seeing? But yeah, it's just a copy-paste selection of crappy minigames. Absolute Wii shovelware, and the fact that they've made 5 of these is wild. Pass.
Keep cool.
That's great, keep it up.
Microid sure loves putting out games, quality be damned, which means it should also come as no surprise that we've got more. Smurfs Village Party by Balio Studio. If this seems familiar, there's a reason. It's by the same exact people who made Garfield Lasagna Party. And what we've got is almost the exact same game. Who'd have thought? However, Smurfs Village Party has one major distinction. It's got an entire freaking single player campaign. It's got an open world to explore. It has unlockables, the Smurf way, and a grand total of 120 different characters to meet and play as in the game. That includes Farmer Smurf, Smurfette, Vanity Smurf, Default Normal Smurf, aka Ryu, and don't forget about Disabled Smurf. Old Papa Smurf really don't be pulling any punches.
Ooh, Smurf? Oh.
The whole goal here is to go around this big map and do quests, of which there's a ton, and fight off old baddie bungler Gargamel to do whatever it is that Smurfs do. I hate the Smurfs. They're like minions for boomers, like a bunch of annoying small little blue dudes, and this game decided to do the party minigame-a-thon without the Mario Party. I had originally thought that there was going to be something like that, considering the Village Party mode was completely locked out with a message to beat the campaign to unlock it, which immediately put the thought into my brain that, okay, I guess I just gotta beat the game to get the Mario Party mode. But no, that just unlocked a single-player thing where you run around collecting medals for high scores against AI, meaning there is no Mario Party, it's just a collection of minigames ranging from bad to hilariously bad, and I'm having to scream in agony to make up for a complete lack of sound effects in half of these. Anyways, I'd rather play the Smurfs Dance Party. At least that's got live action Gargamel.
I want power. It's Smurfs I hate.
If you want a real low-tier Mario Party clone in the year 2024, you got to leave behind the mushroom propaganda, head into the anime dimension for Demon Slayer Sweep the Board. Yes, both Sega and CyberConnect 2 decided to team up again to make a Demon Slayer Mario Party clone, and it sure has me wishing I was playing the Smurfs Village Party.
Go faster!
I've been defeated.
Here I go! I didn't win.
In Sweep the Board, you do follow the standard Mario Party shtick, except instead of collecting stars, you're going for these point thingies by hitting crow points on the map and looking for demons. You'll either follow the trail for points or engage in a big demon fight where the people best at minigames can go for the win. I have never felt a complete lack of agency in a Mario Party style experience, and Demon Slayer hit something I didn't know existed, despite winning 90% of the minigames that hit, making the best strategic moves I could possibly make on the boards and doing my absolute best.
Nice.
Sheer randomness and awards made me lose in the end. Never mind that the pace is dreadfully slow, the games are easily identifiable clones, worse in every way, and the Demon Slayer theme seems purely tacked on. Sweep the Board is not a very fun time, even for the biggest of the anime's fans. At least the models look nice, though I assume CC2 yoinked those out of the other game they made. Just a little asset reuse. Let's take these amazing action sequences with thick lines and slap them in the middle of the most uninspired minigames you've ever played.
Yes! Right on target!
Take that.
Whoa, what?
Keeping it anime for a bit longer, Jujitsu Kaisen Cursed Clash, the lowest reviewed game of the year on Metacritic. Wowie. However, I do know me some anime arena fighters, for better or worse, and what in the world was Bandai Namco thinking with this? The whole shtick with JJK is that you can only do damage to another fighter by striking them with curse energy, and that doesn't translate well into a video game, unless you feel like trading off single-strand combos that do nothing until the final hit. Exciting. The controls feel clunky, slow, the combat doesn't have much depth, but before we get ahead of ourselves, you gotta check out the main menu. Going for that 2002 Spider-Man DVD aesthetic. I love it. Also, I like that they have these detailed models that are barely used for anything outside of the gameplay, and just about every cutscene is a screenshot slideshow from the anime with a couple words on the screen. I ain't never seen a video game be such a loud advertisement for another product before, and we've played literal advert games. This came out in 2024, but the mechanics and visuals look like something from the PlayStation 3 era as opposed to, you know, a modern arena fighter. Something like like Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm took this concept and ran with it over a decade ago, which just makes Curse Clash look like a mobile game adapted into something that pulls off the bare minimum. I've heard even the most hardcore of fans pass on this one, which is wild, considering a lot of Shonen and Jump fans will stomach some truly middling games. I didn't even want to keep playing. I let the AI fight for footage.
I'm a computer.
Game Mill Entertainment, a name I've said at least 50 different times in the 11 years we've been doing this YouTube channel. Also something that deserves it. Game Mill is proactive with licensed games, putting out 5 or more of these a year, most of them not great. However, their first one of the year would be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles release, and technically a home console port of an arcade game. No, not one of the cool ones you might be thinking of. I'm talking about the massive Dave & Buster's ass quarter munchers. TMNT Arcade Wrath of the Mutants. There's a reason no one really talks about this. This might work in a setting where people are bowling and children are screaming around you, but having to hear this every 30 seconds is a surefire way to make you lose your mind. Wild too, considering the voice acting in this game was done by real legit actors like Seth Green, Sean Astin, Rob Paulson, and more.
Kneel before the genius of Frank Surprise.
The game itself is, well, like, I'm sure some of y'all have played the modern excuse for beat-em-ups that you see in arcades. There's close to no depth. They exist solely to snatch quarters from your wallet or a credit from your cards. It's 2024, and it's visually uninteresting to look at. I'd rather play Mutants in Manhattan, and I don't say that lightly. One more licensed beat-em-up though, G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra. What a disappointment. I guess everyone saw how freaking cool TMNT Shredder's Revenge was and the success of Scott Pilgrim's re-release, and decided they were also gonna try the 2D sprite beat-em-ups. This year we got Power Rangers Rita's Rewind, last year we had Double Dragon Gaiden, but I don't know how Wrath of Cobra ended up so bland. Another year, another G.I. Joe video game making its way into one of these videos. Although this one's not terrible. Wrath of Cobra got itself a 65 on Metacritic and not enough user scores for that to be a thing. A sad fate for something that was as big as G.I. Joe was in the 80s, but also maybe they should work a bit on the presentation. You got subtitle fonts taking up the entire bottom and blending together. Menus are incredibly hard to look at, and Cobra Commander sure needs to stop clipping.
But I can't take all the credit. After all, 2 heads are better than 1.
Gameplay is incredibly basic. I know I've said it a million times, like, how does one mess up a side-scrolling beat-em-up? But I guess this is how. Enemies are sponges, especially bosses. You don't have any growth, which is typically expected of one of these in the 2020s, so the standard run and punch combos are all you have. Not to mention, I'm really unsure about some of these hitboxes, like Scarlet's basic kick. Why is the frame rate of the cutscene so choppy? Why do bosses take so long to kill? These are the questions a sane person wouldn't worry themselves over, but alas, someone's gotta. Don't play this.
Yo, Joe!
I'd much rather talk about, say, whatever the hell they were thinking with South Park Snow Day.
Now it's time for one last test. Hey, you wanted to see me? Who's this kid? Are they playing?
When you think of South Park, do the words 4-player co-op roguelike come to the brain? Well, they shouldn't. However, THQ Nordic teamed up with developer Question to bring us something that I can only describe as bizarre. Technically the sequel to Stick of Truth and The Fractured Butthole, Snow Day is in the name. The kids get themselves a snow day and decide to continue their role-playing shenanigans, probably hot off the presses of the new kid from the previous games, getting too OP and committing acts of violence beyond comprehension. Silly, sure, but also the game they went with is not what I expected. Ditching the turn-based RPG in favor of a hack and slash, this has still got Trey Parker and Matt Stone on the writing, but how do I say this? South Park, the crude, comical, self-aware, bashing everyone show, feels really uninspired. A lot of the dialogue is pulling on its own series of member berries while tossing in an obnoxious amount of gamer lingo that is now teetered over into the go-away heat side of the spectrum. Snow Day is a game I want to laugh at, but I guess over 20 years of South Park has caused it all to jump the shark into something totally uninteresting to experience.
Oh yeah, your axe gave them, dysentery. Dysentery only does 99 damage. They each have 1 hit point left.
The game, on the other hand, is a decent idea. Look, I'll always be a sucker for a co-op game. It could be the dregs and I'll still have a decent time. However, the slow plodding pace of Snow Day has you running screen to screen, fighting off waves of children and hoping you have the right elemental and stat bonuses to pull it off. It's less skill-based and more luck-based, and the best of roguelikes can strike a good balance with this. South Park decided the first room I was gonna tackle ever was gonna be waves of guys with with impenetrable reflective shields, while I was given the BS modifier of your melee weapons are useless, and that sure was a first impression. Also, the first boss, Kyle, spammed Rose AoEs that seemed impossible to get past until I just perched up in a place where he wouldn't attack. Riveting gameplay. I think there's some potential with South Park Snow Day, and I really liked the previous two games. It just ain't it.
By the way, since you last played, we had to redo all the rules and start over because somebody got all OP.
Every year we got the bad, the awful, but also the disappointing, which are the ones that I'm usually more invested in. By that, I mean actually, because disappointing usually implies the existence of some kind of personal investment. For instance, Gundam Breaker 4 didn't do it for me. Which is a massive shame considering it is a big improvement over New Gundam Breaker. The concept is a golden one. You play as little digital versions of Gunpla inside an MMO game about Gundam. Maybe a bit too on the nose, but also the customization is something that's deep, fantastic, and allows you to make absolute freaks like this. It just also has a bare minimum of depth to 90% of the gameplay. You have your little combos and configurations you can put together, but the actual mission structure is incredibly simplistic. You pick a stage, fight a few waves while keeping your combos up, move on to the next part of the mission, rinse, repeat, all while watching one of the most terribly generic and uninteresting narratives unfold. This one's for the build fighters audience, not really the UC old heads, which is fine, but it's not Gundam Breaker 3, which has a more Dynasty Warriors feel. Actually, I was just wanting to play Dynasty Warriors Gundam the entire time. Please come back. Mullet Mad Jack is f***ing awesome. However, speaking of old heads, I'm definitely feeling my age with this one. The fast-paced nature of it is a little too visual overload for my senses, inducing nausea, and I hate that because it's 100% up my alley. A game I can absolutely recommend if you're a fan of colors, 80s anime, and Xanax Twitch shooters. Speaking of Xanax, Ara History Untold. Here's a game that should have been a shoe-in. Developed by Oxide Games, a group founded by X4Axis devs, Ara is Xbox-branded Civilization, and that's great. It leads into more of a micromanagement style of gameplay, having you focused more on individual cities and what they can bring to your empire, a slightly deeper take on Civ. However, at launch, I felt the performance wasn't really optimized, and it was a bit content light in comparison to, say, a fully kitted out Civilization 6. Probably not a fair comparison, considering Civ 7's gonna come out and I'll say the exact same thing. It's a cycle of expansions here. I think in a year's time, with some balance updates, Ara will be an absolute banger. It's just not there yet. Which is also how I feel about Parcel Core. Man, Parcel Core sure was targeted directly at me. 3 words, DoorDash Crazy Taxi. 3 powerful words that should get any of us old, wrinkly, washed up classic Sega gamers up and ready to throw money at the wall. But just like Ara, Parcel Core came out really underbaked. Published by Secret Mode, who has a decent amount of titles on their lineup, Parcel Core was announced with a hoorah on the cover of PC Gamer. Took a front seat over Indiana Jones even. But it had this original vibe, a fun and colorful art style, and the promise of fast-paced racing, jet-set radio tricks, ridiculousness, and crazy taxi gameplay. Unfortunately, during launch this October, Parcel Core was plagued with technical issues, a lack of graphical settings, and bizarre glitches. Progressing in Parcel Core doesn't make much sense. You earn money from doing objectives, which serves little purpose beyond bike upgrades, all of which are cosmetic. You get limited to a pick of 3 characters from your parcel company, so there's not a huge variety of selection like in Jet Set, and some of the NPCs you interact with fall flat.
Step 1, we lift. Step 2, we lift. Step 3, we lift. Step 4, we lift. And step 5, we inject the anabolic steroids.
That went on a bit long. I want to love Parcel Core with all my heart, and there's things I really like about it. The initial climb of learning how to control your bike can be a bit confusing for those who aren't familiar with these types of extreme sports games from the 90s, and I can definitely say it doesn't hit the same way that, say, a skateboarding delivery game would have. You can tell I'm not the biggest Dave Mirra BMX guy. Look, Tony Hawk's Uber Eats would have gone just as hard. Like Ara, Parcel Core has been getting a bunch of quality of life updates, and I think with time, it can absolutely hit the bar of quality. But you can tell it needed more time in the oven. This allegedly has multiplayer, but I sat in a lobby for a good 10 minutes with no luck. A shame. Although I appreciate the Snake Pass arcade cabinet in the lobby. Something, the World of Ridiculous crossover. Next up, something I think a couple people felt, and also something that's been addressed in a very recent patch. I was so excited for the Plucky Squire, but it really failed to let go of tutorial mode the entire time. I played this at launch for a couple hours and then read some reviews talking about this because it was a weird feeling. The Plucky Squire is this beautiful 2D and 3D adventure title reminiscent of Zelda and other retro titles, telling a story of a lovable children's hero getting forced out of his own ending. A cute and simple concept that uses its narrative to push you out of the book and into the 3D world for exploring and gameplay. However, there's no real build-up to anything bigger. The Plucky Squire looks like it would be this big world with exploration, but it's way more linear than you'd think. It's chapter-based, you can't go back, and you can only do what the game is actively holding your hand to do at that moment. This includes totally different gameplay styles like Punch-Out, a side-scrolling shmup, this slow-paced arrow combat, and also the Magic the Gathering card with Pokemon combat. Not great. Moments like this that exist for a minigame or two, and that's it. I do like the word puzzle aspect, but some of them require a lot of running back and forth, which eats up a ton of the time for an experience that's already less than 10 hours long. The Plucky Squire is an incredible showcase, demo, or trailer. Transforming this into a full game, a little less so. I think a younger audience would adore this, but it doesn't quite have the depth that I wanted from it. They did recently patch it with a streamlined mode, which I didn't get the chance to look at, but it seems like the developers realized that this was an issue and have attempted to address it. Next up, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Just kidding, I love this game. I am a bit disappointed that I dropped it in the first week though. Fantastic and wonderfully stupid combat systems. Love the what ifs, even if it's just a lot of stills with motion blur on the side. Also, I get to annoy people online with a great Saiyaman intro that goes on for too long. I can't help but feel it's a bit light on the side content though. The story mode is a series of lines to follow, and if I think of older Dragon Ball games from the PlayStation 2 era, the ones that this is pulling from, I can't help but see bigger games there. Or maybe I just want Budokai's open world map to fly around in. I don't know. I should really go back to Sparking Zero. Maybe someone else feels this, but my video game ADHD, hey look at the next shiny problems, make it hard. And lastly, because I could nitpick a bunch of stuff needlessly all day, and we gotta talk about some real disappointments before getting back into the uber garbage, I need to bring up Contra Operation Galuga. Contra is a franchise that I don't think Konami knows what to do with. After the goated Contra Hardcore, it was a roller coaster of quality and quality until the drought of the 2010s. Now that Konami's done with their I hate video games phase, they came back to the IP with Rogue Core, a game that might have proved they actually did hate video games. People don't want a twin-stick looter shooter, they want Contra. And so, shoot forward to 2024. Konami teamed up with Contra 4 devs Way Forward again to bring us a brand new hardcore side-scrolling run and gun reminiscent of the originals. The results? Contra Operation Galuga. And it's okay. Galuga's a game that at first impression looks a lot more than capable of carrying the torch. Blasting dudes through the jungle, big wall bosses, and dying a lot. Oh yeah!
Like I remember it!
But as soon as you get to the second stage, it becomes clear that this is all there really is. It's a very short 2-hour romp through stages that have some fun set pieces, but lack any sort of different gameplay styles that Contra games previously had. No Mode 7, no whatever nonsense Hardcore was doing. It doesn't help that the bosses are some of the easiest in the franchise. Some of them die without any real challenge. The penultimate boss of this thing, a big bad alien man, kinda just falls over. It's a shame. Contra is supposed to be ridiculously difficult. That, whoops, you died. We'll start from the very beginning with the Konami code, good luck idiot kind of experience. Galuga does not come close to replicating that. It's not all bad, it plays perfectly fine. You've got the omnidirectional method of shooting, the dash moves allow you to cover more ground, which will make speedrunning enjoyable. Every character you unlock has a different preferred weapon that changes how weapon pickups act, and I think it's pretty cool. I'm not really sure why they decided to put an emphasis on story though. I don't think anyone has ever played a classic side-scrolling Contra, let alone run and gun, and been like, what's happening in the narrative here? What's the lore? But at the very least, it's told through some talented voice actors, Kaiji Tang, Kira Buckland, and old Wolverine himself, Steve Blum.
I could shoot the core.
No!
Huh?
Earlier you mentioned a sniper.
I'm telling you.
There's also an after credit stinger showing some of the characters of Hardcore, and you can unlock them in the shop for 8,000 credits. I only got about 150 to 300 at the end of each level, so yeah, that ain't happening. No online co-op, by the way, so it looks like we're just living in the 90s again. That, or using 2024 tech to stream it with remote play to totally screw your friends up with your shitty Wi-Fi connection. Operation Galuga comes off more like an Xbox Live Arcade joint than the quality I expect from WayForward. They're known for these great 2D sprites like with their recently released Retro Realms, but here it's just off. $40 is a steep asking price for this, and heck, you can still get Hardcore Uprising digitally for 15 bones on the X-Bone, so maybe go do that. It's good, and hard, at the very least. Operation Galuga is better than Rogue Core. I basically said nothing. Well, that was all disappointing. But so was the entire industry this year. Before we run into our final game, I figured we'd take a look at a couple of smaller games, events, and things that happened in the year 2024. A State of the Union for the games industry, if you will, which means holy crap, the layoffs. I thought 2023 was bad. I was sorely mistaken. Over 10,000 jobs were eliminated that year, with around 14,600 jobs cut in 2024. That includes studios cutting back and entire game developers shutting down, like Arcane Austin, Volition, London Studio, Tango Gameworks. Absolutely too many to list. Embracer continues to be a complete joke, with Microsoft and Sony coming up behind them. Two of the more notable instances of the industry screwing over developers happens to be with two games that didn't fully hit the mark. Visions of Mana and Concord. I think most people know the Concord saga at this point. Sony and Firewalk Studios put way too much money into a paid, not free-to-play Overwatch clone that wasn't up to gameplay standards, especially with the excellent Marvel Rivals around the corner. A mere week after Concord released, they announced they were going to shut the project down. Platinum Trophy hunters ran off the cliff over and over en masse to get it done in time, and Firewalk would close their doors in October. A really sad, unfortunate story that everyone decided to dunk on, and a total failure on Sony's part. Visions of Mana, however, is a lot lamer. Speaking of Marvel Rivals, their parent company, NetEase, decided to completely axe Oka Studios in Japan the same day the game released. No faith whatsoever. In fact, NetEase said they had nothing to announce after coldly shutting them down. Visions of Mana isn't even bad. It's an enjoyable, if kind of mid-generic entry in a series that needs more love, and this kind of cold approach to games development sucks. If you ever played a Mana title, Visions is a pretty decent one. A little janky, sure, but it absolutely shows that the space for the B game in the modern industry is a rapidly shrinking one. That'd be something like Lollipop Chainsaw back in 2012. This collab between Grasshopper, Suda51, and James Gunn is a banger classic, and that I love to go back to every now and then. However, recently it was remastered as a repop by Dragami Games, who brought it out without any involvement from anyone who originally worked on it. This remastered introduces some bugs, lost a majority of its original licensed soundtrack, and cost $45 new. A little sus, and you might as well pick up a used copy at that price. Speaking of remasters, what in the world happened with Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection? The original Battlefront 1 and 2 are some of the coolest games from that generation. The Battlefield 1942 approach to Star Wars going into deep space combat remains a 10 out of 10 experience. This remaster completely dropped the ball. The whole launch was a mess. On PC, only 3 servers existed. 3! Once they got that together, all the other servers on different platforms were running horribly, had awful pings, stuttering, just the kitchen sink of issues. How you mess up the launch of a 20-year-old video game is beyond me, but at least they let you use mods. Honestly, this doesn't need to exist when you can still play the original, and it reeks of a cash grab, which is exactly how I'm seeing the Gold Edition 48-hour early access nonsense. Bro, what happened? Are gamers really willing to pay a premium on the regular just to play a game a few days early now? This is by no means a new concept, but it happened all over the place in 2024, even with games I really like. The idea of 40K Space Marine 2 letting you play 4 days early just for spending a couple extra bucks is wild. Even wilder are single-player games. You can play Silent Hill 2 48 hours early with the Deluxe Edition. Although I had a friend that did that because at the end of the day, Pizza Box Pyramid Head got him good. Hey, remember Pac-Man 99? What if we do that, but worse. Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle Chomp Champs isn't just a lot of words, it's Pac-Man Battle Royale. Again, but worse. I mean, look, I love the idea of taking something old and remixing it in a ridiculous way, but Bandai Namco, you already have a better version of this, and I guess they thought so too, because they didn't advertise it, it got buried pretty much right away, and finding a game is impossible. I wouldn't be surprised if this one gets shut down. I was a little surprised that Blue Protocol got the axe before it even hit the States though. I guess Bamco and Amazon Games realized MMORPGs are sort of a dying genre, and after it failed to hit projections and sustainability in Japan, they ripped the whole thing apart and it'll be shut down in January 2025. A shame, because I was kind of looking forward to this. I crave a new MMORPG that isn't a tab target nightmare or another decade of Final Fantasy XIV, and this looked promising. Weirdly, in this last month, it looks like Tencent might have picked it up, and they're releasing it under a different name in the future, Star Resonance. Glad to know that we can just sell entire games to other studios to reanimate its corpse. Yes! Hopefully it's decent. I still crave a new MMO. How about that Baldur's Gate 3, or rather, Larian. Last year's Game of the Year is great. It's still getting updates with a final one coming out early 2025. Finally, I'll be able to play without my glitched day one file where I got locked out of every romance. However, it looks like that'll be that for Larian because they've seemed to have totally cut off business with D&D's parent company Hasbro for being Hasbro.
Just try not to step in it. Adult assembly and supervision required.
Tons of layoffs, lots of generative AI usage throughout various projects like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. Considering Larian is very outspoken about how companies treat their employees, it makes sense we wouldn't see a Baldur's Gate 4. At least not from Larian, which is a worrying thought. And if you dislike a little Gen AI being in your games, by all means, do not look at any digital storefronts. I don't know about y'all, I used to sit back on my couch, hit up the store, sort by latest, and take my time in checking out all the latest games, but it is truly filled up with some of the worst, barely functioning AI-filled slop garbage you can imagine. Y'all ever played Anime Girls MMA Tournament? That is just Taylor Swift. How about Anime Girls Son of a Beach? Y'all know that recent indie hit, TCG Card Shop Simulator? Now we're seeing all these pure clones and ripoffs of other more successful indie titles like TCG Card Shop Master, TCG Card Market Simulator, TCG Card Shop Manager, Empire, Trade 'em Up, just a bunch of base asset nonsense disguised as Gen AI anime and or Pixar girls, and it is oh so sad. For example, how about Web Fishing Simulator? This looks legit, handcrafted, and totally legal. The current state of digital game stores is an absolute shambles. No jokes, it just sucks. Sony, Nintendo, Valve even, please, curate. No one needs to play Hearthstorm. It's not even a Hearthstone ripoff.
Prepare for epic battles. Choose your hero.
One more, I guess. The Eiyuden Chronicles port on Switch was pretty bad. I wish Rabbit and Bear Studios didn't mess up the one platform that was gonna have the largest impact in Japan, because Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes is pretty good, and it deserves better. All right, we got one more today, and let's keep this short and sweet. I'm talking most disappointing, I'm talking worst, all wrapped together with a shiny bow. Game Mill Entertainment, you've reignited the feud. Looney Tunes' Wacky World of Sports sucks, and it really shouldn't have. Let's catch everyone up to speed. I love arcade sports games. One of my favorite titles growing up was Tiny Toons Acme All-Stars for the Sega Genesis. It's just this collection of sports starring the tiniest of tunes, and I played it for 3 trillion hours. Now my editor refuses to delete the footage I recorded because it's just gonna come up again. So, when you announce a Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports, something clearly aimed at reigniting that sort of nostalgia, any old boy's gonna get excited. Or they could screw it all up. Developed by Bamtang Games, who have brought us several worst of the year contenders over the years, Wacky World of Sports should have been a shoo-in. We got basketball, soccer, golf, and tennis all together as one. I don't think I've ever played a truly bad basketball video game before, but this one takes the cake. The hit detection is off. Your characters will stop functioning mid-action, and the mechanics for passing and shooting go against all of my normal instincts. Not to mention the other 3 sports have equal, if not worse, interpretations. This is Game Mill we're talking about though, so don't forget the side of bugs.
A present for me?
You better enjoy listening to a single song for most of this, by the way. They have this maybe royalty-free version of the Looney Tunes theme where they pull a Vanilla Ice and go,
Basketball!
It's not the same.
I like how Porky and Elmer have a nearly identical animation. Actually, they might have the same base model. It's a little uncanny. It's not duck or wabbit season. It's time for the flop era. Balls rebounding off of holes in golf like I've never seen. Wacky effects that have no explanation, rhyme, or reason. And a whole lot of my childhood thrown straight into the dumpster.
What was that?
Thankfully, it seems like the game runs a bit better than that original trailer they showed off where they had the mother of slowdowns, which immediately tempered my expectations, but even the PlayStation 4 and 5 version couldn't hold it together. I hope you like long load times for the character selection. Yeah, I hate this. Wacky World of Sports is the second lowest reviewed game of the year on Metacritic with a 45, narrowly edging out Jujitsu Kaisen. However, I don't care about JJK. Your boy wanted Acme All-Stars too. It was unrealistic, especially with the publisher, and I'm still gonna be a little upset about it. For a little bit anyways. I got more important things to think about, like finishing Funko Fusion and Suicide Squad. Oh, trust me, I didn't forget about Funko Fusion. Don't play Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports, even if you're a diehard Loon. Although it is better than Loon's The Fight for Fame. Then again, so is headbutting a wall.
You're in for it now, Buster.
So there you have it, the worst and most disappointing video games of 2024 in the bag, with just a few more to talk about a little later down on the line. Trust me, I thought about Funko Fusion and Suicide Squad for this video, but there simply wasn't enough time to get into it. The year's over. That's another 365 days of videos for y'all, which means we're in our 12th year now. And I'm getting too old. Like, actually, I was playing Test Drive Unlimited for like 45 minutes and I nearly fell asleep. It's happening. If you liked today's video, check out the sponsor, Surfshark VPN, or you can head on over to the Patreon to support us directly. All your help goes back into the channel, you'll gain access to the Discord, and it's all greatly appreciated. Buy a t-shirt over at the Pixel Empire, and if you'd like, toss us a subscription or comment. YouTube's being YouTube these days, and any bit of support goes a long way. So, I've been Austin, and catch y'all next time when we finally kill the Justice League. Thank you so much for watching. Special Patreon shout out to Aaron Kwolek, Alfred Correa, Benna Oswald, Blackfoot Ferret, Blake Thomas, Charles Rosner, Cheeks, Cloric Fox, Chris Shelton, DX Buster, Dylan Snyder, Fragile Traveler, Hey Quiggles, Idlevice, Jay Roos, Jacoby Fitzpatrick, Kevin Zanowski, Pierre, Platinum Rose, Pacha Bear, Rare Find It, Ryan Talbert, and Vox. Another year in the bag, another 2-week little break for me. I've got more videos coming in January, starting again with Suicide Squad and some other stuff I think that's gonna be pretty fun. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. It's busy. The holidays have been hectic for everyone, I'm sure. Take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, play some video games, and, you know, be nice to people. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.